Discover the top 5 ultra-rare 1976 bicentennial quarters and wheat pennies that could be worth $10,000 to over $250,000. From shocking mint errors to valuable misstrikes, these coins are hiding in plain sight. Watch till the end, your spare change could make you rich. Part 1, The Birth of the Bicentennial Quarter. The 1976 bicentennial quarter wasn't just any coin, it was a piece of American celebration. Issued to commemorate 200 years of American independence, this quarter stood out from the standard Washington quarters by featuring a unique reverse design showing a colonial drummer and a victory torch encircled by 13 stars. A dual date, 1776 to 1976, on the obverse instead of a single year. And a special place in American history and numismatics. The Denver Mint produced these coins with a D mint mark, and while over 860 million were struck, only a tiny fraction carry the errors, varieties, or high-grade qualities that can command prices well beyond imagination. Classical Building Part 2, Why the 1976 D Bicentennial Quarter is so special. So what makes this coin so exciting? It was the first circulating U.S. coin to feature a commemorative design in over 50 years. It was struck in both clad and silver versions. It was included in mint sets, proof sets, and was also hoarded by collectors, making high-grade examples relatively common, but error coins and high-grade full-strike business strikes are rare. The Denver Mint made coins for circulation, but the few that were struck perfectly or struck in error are today's hidden treasures. Collision Part 3, The Rarest and Most Valuable 1976 D Quarter Errors. Here's where the real money lies. Let's dive into the rare errors and varieties that make the 1976 D Bicentennial Quarter worth hundreds to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Fire 1. Double die obverse, DDO, or reverse, DDR. Some coins were struck with double dies, causing clear doubling on the date, Liberty, In God We Trust, or on the drummer and torch. White heavy checkmark value range, $500 to $3,000 plus depending on clarity and grade. Fire 2. Off-metal errors, struck on wrong planchets. Extremely rare 1976 D quarters were struck on planchets meant for other coins, like Lincoln cents, copper, or nickels, copper-nickel. White heavy checkmark confirmed auction sale. One 1976 D quarter struck on a nickel planchet sold for over $7,000. Another struck on a copper cent planchet went for over $15,000. Fire 3. Clad layer missing. Coins missing the outer layer of metal appear copper-colored or dull gray. These are striking to the eye and very collectible. White heavy checkmark value, $250 to $1,500 depending on condition. Fire 4. Off-center strikes. Some quarters were struck off-center, making part of the design missing. If the date and mint mark are visible, these coins are highly prized. White heavy checkmark value, $200 to $5,000 plus. Fire 5. Full drum strike, MS67 plus grades. Coins with full details on the drummer's drum and sharp relief in both obverse and reverse often get high grades from PCGS or NGC. A PCGS MS67 plus 1976 D-clad quarter once sold for over $6,000. White heavy checkmark MS68 grades are incredibly rare. Only a handful exist. White heavy checkmark auction price, MS68 examples have sold for over $10,000 to $20,000. Fire 6. Silver-clad errors from Denver. Though most 40% silver bicentennial quarters were struck in San Francisco, some silver-clad planchets were mistakenly used in Denver. White heavy checkmark one example graded by NGC sold for over $17,000 due to this mint error. Fire 7. Struck through errors. These happen when debris or fabric gets between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving strange indents or impressions. White heavy checkmark value, $500 to $2,000 plus. Chart increasing Part 4, Real auction sales of rare 1976 D Bicentennial quarters. Let's look at some real-world examples. Coin type grade/error auction value 1976, DMS68 clad quarter PCGS $21,000 1976, D on penny planchet MS65 RB $15,275 1976, D clad missing layer 58 Australian dollars $960 1976. D off-center 40% MS64 $3,250 1976, D silver-clad error MS67 $17,500 1976, D DDR variety MS66 $1,300. These are not fantasy prices, they're actual results from heritage auctions, Stax Bowers, and great collections. It shows just how insane the market can get for the right coin. Magnifying glass tilted left part 5. How to spot a rare 1976 D Bicentennial quarter. Want to know if your quarter is a jackpot? White heavy checkmark. Look at the drum. Check for full lines and details. If it's sharp, it may qualify for a high-grade MS67 or MS68. White heavy checkmark. Check the edge and weight. If it looks silver or feels light, it might be on a silver planchet. Have it weighed. White heavy checkmark. Inspect for doubling. Use a magnifying glass on the date, lettering, and drummer's features. White heavy checkmark. Watch for off-center strikes or clipped edges. Irregular shapes or missing parts of the design could mean big bucks. White heavy checkmark. Send it for grading. Coins in pristine condition or with visible errors should be sent to PCGS or NGC for authentication and value boost. Part 1, the 1941 Wheat Penny, a piece of wartime history. The 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny isn't just another copper coin, it's a piece of pre-World War II America. Minted just months before the United States entered World War II, this coin marked the end of peacetime production and the beginning of one of the most intense periods in U.S. history. It features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor D. Brenner. 2 wheat ears and the words, 1 cent, and United States of America, on the reverse. 3 mints struck the coin in 1941. Philadelphia, no mint mark. Denver, D. San Francisco, S. Together, they produced over 1.1 billion coins, making the regular 1941 penny quite common, but the rare error versions? Incredibly scarce and valuable. Moneybag Part 2, how much is a 1941 wheat penny worth today? Let's talk numbers. While the average 1941 penny is worth a few cents in circulated condition, the value skyrockets when white heavy checkmark. The coin is in mint state, MS65 or higher. White heavy checkmark. It has full red color instead of brown or red-brown. White heavy checkmark. It contains rare mint errors or double dies. Here are typical values. Coin type condition estimated value 1941, no mint mark, MS65 RD $5 to $50 1941, D MS66 RD $100 to $500 1941. SMS67 RD $700 to $2,000 1941 double die AU/MS $5,000 to $50,000 plus 1941 off-metal error MS $10,000 to $100,000 plus. And yes, we're just getting started, because it's the error coins and rare grades that bring in the big bucks. Fire Part 3, the ultra-rare errors that make this penny worth thousands. If you want to strike gold with a 1941 penny, here are the rare versions to look out for. Fire 1. 1941 Double Die Obverse, DDO. One of the most valuable 1941 penny errors. You'll notice strong doubling on the date and the words, Liberty, and, In God We Trust. White heavy checkmark value in mint state, $5,000 to $30,000 plus white heavy checkmark 158 Australian dollars DDO example sold for $8,500 at auction. Fire 2. Off-metal strikes, wrong planchet. Some 1941 pennies were mistakenly struck on foreign coin blanks or on planchets intended for dimes or nickels. These coins are lighter or heavier than usual and often have unusual color. White heavy checkmark value, $15,000 to $100,000 plus white heavy checkmark 1 rare 1941 D penny struck on a dime planchet sold for over $35,000. Fire 3. Off-center strike. These coins are struck with the design off the center, sometimes even missing part of Lincoln's head or the date. White heavy checkmark value, $500 to $3,000 plus, depending on percent off-center and if the date is readable. Fire 4. Clipped planchet. Looks like a bite was taken out of the coin. These are fun and valuable errors. White heavy checkmark value, $250 to $2,000 plus. Fire 5. Die cracks and cuts. Cracks in the die leave raised lines or blobs on the coin. Large cuts, chunks of metal near the rim, are collectible. White heavy checkmark value, $100 to $1,500 plus. Part 5. How to spot a rare 1941 wheat penny. Here's how to check your 1941 penny for treasure. White heavy checkmark Step 1, check the mint mark. No mint mark equals Philadelphia. D equals Denver. S equals San Francisco. White heavy checkmark Step 2, examine the date and letters. Use a 10x magnifier to look for doubling on 1941, Liberty, and In God We Trust. White heavy checkmark Step 3, weigh the coin. Standard copper penny equals 3.11 grams. Wrong weight equals potential off-metal error. White heavy checkmark Step 4, look for obvious errors. Off-center strike. Clipped planchet. Die breaks, cracks or cuts. White heavy checkmark Step 5, grade and authenticate if it's a high-grade coin or has a visible error, send it to PCGS or NGC for grading. Slabbed coins bring higher prices. Part 1, the 1953 D wheat penny, a glimpse into post-war America. The 1953 D Lincoln wheat penny was minted at the Denver Mint, identified by the small d below the date on the obverse. America was coming out of the post-World War II recovery, and pennies were an everyday part of life, used for gum, phone calls, and postage. Here's what you need to know about the basics. Designer, Victor D. Brenner. Obverse, Lincoln's bust. Reverse, 2 wheat ears and 1 cent / United States of America. Composition, 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc. Weight, 3.11 grams. Mintage, over 700 million coins. While 700 plus million sounds like a lot, and it is, the real value lies in condition, rarity, and errors. That's where things get exciting. Moneybag Part 2, what is a 1953 D wheat penny worth today? In circulated condition, most 1953 D pennies are worth only a few cents to a couple of dollars. But when you start looking at high-grade coins, rare varieties, and errors, the prices soar. White heavy checkmark MS65 red, mint state. $20 to $40 white heavy checkmark MS66 red, $100 to $300 white heavy checkmark MS67 red, top grade $2,000 plus white heavy checkmark errors and off-metal strikes, $5,000 to $100,000 plus. Let's break down exactly what makes some of these pennies so valuable. Collision Part 3, rare errors that make the 1953 D penny worth thousands, 4 to 630. Fire 1. Off-metal errors, wrong planchet coins. These rare errors occur when the coin is struck on a planchet meant for another denomination, like a dime or even a foreign coin. White heavy checkmark example, in 1953, D penny struck on a silver dime planchet money bag sold for over $17,000. Fire 2. Double die obverse, DDO. This happens when the design elements are doubled due to a misaligned die. Check for doubling in. The date, 1953. Liberty. In God We Trust. White heavy checkmark high-grade DDOs can sell for $500 to $5,000 plus. Fire 3. Repunched mintmark RPM. Some 1953 pennies have a mint mark that was stamped twice slightly off. These are very collectible, especially in high grade. White heavy checkmark RPM examples, FS 501, can bring $50 to $500 plus. Fire 4. Struck through errors. Debris or grease gets between the die and the planchet, leaving strange marks or missing elements. White heavy checkmark value, $100 to $1,500 plus depending on severity. Fire 5. BIE error. A small die crack between the letters B and E in Liberty, making it appear like it says BIE. White heavy checkmark value, $20 to $200 depending on size and grade. Chart increasing Part 4, Auction Prices, what collectors are actually paying. Here are real-world auction results that show just how valuable the rarest 1953 pennies can be. Coin type grade/error auction price 1953 MS67 red, top pop, PCGS $7,500 plus 1953 off metal, dime planchet, NGC MS64 $17,625 1953 DDO variety 58 Australian dollars $2,100 1953 DRPM FS 501 MS66 red $350 1953 D struck through grease MS63 BN $1,050. And this is just the beginning. As demand rises for rare errors and high grades, prices are expected to skyrocket even further. Magnifying glass tilted left Part 5, How to spot a rare 1953 penny in your collection. Here's your checklist to see if your 1953 wheat penny is a hidden gem. Step 1, check the mint mark. Look closely at the D below the date, use a magnifier. If it's repunched or oddly shaped, you might have an RPM. White heavy checkmark. Step 2, inspect the date and lettering. Look for doubling in 1953 Liberty and In God We Trust. Any signs of doubling equals possible DDO. White heavy checkmark. Step 3, check the color and condition. A full red, lustrous coin is worth more than a brown one. Red coins in mint state 66 or 67 bring the big money. White heavy checkmark. Step 4, weigh the coin. A standard wheat penny should weigh 3.11 grams. If it's significantly off, e.g., 2.5 g, it could be on a wrong planchet, jackpot. White heavy checkmark. Step 5, look for damage or grease strikes. Missing letters or smudged design equals struck through error. White heavy checkmark. Step 6, get it graded. If your coin looks promising, send it to PCGS or NGC for professional grading and authentication. Part 1, the story behind the 1946 wheat penny. The 1946 Lincoln wheat penny was one of the first post-war coins struck after the end of World War II. It came during a time of national rebuilding and economic recovery. The design remained the same as earlier wheat cents. Obverse, Abraham Lincoln's portrait by Victor D. Brenner. Reverse, classic, 1 cent/United States of America, flanked by wheat ears. Composition, 95% copper, 5% zinc/tin. Weight, 3.11 grams. The 1946 penny was minted in 3 U.S. mint locations. Philadelphia, no mint mark, 991 million plus. Denver, D mint mark, 315 million plus. San Francisco, S mint mark, 198 million plus. That means over 1.5 billion pennies were made in 1946. But here's the twist, not all pennies are equal. Some of them were struck with serious errors or unique characteristics that now make them worth tens, or even hundreds, of thousands of dollars. Money Bag Part 2, Regular Values of 1946 Wheat Pennies. Let's break it down. Coin type grade typical value 1946, no mint mark, circulated 5 to 25 cents 1946, DMS65RD $10 to $50 1946, SMS66RD $60 to $150 1946 with errors MS or 1,000 Australian dollars to $100,000 plus. As you can see, circulated coins are common, but once you get into mint state, MS65 plus, full red color, or discover error coins, the value explodes. Fire Part 3, Rare Errors that make 1946 pennies worth thousands, 330 to 630. Now let's talk about the big money makers, errors and varieties. These are what transform a 1-cent coin into a $100,000 prize. Fire 1. 1946 off-metal error, struck on foreign planchet. During the post-war era, the U.S. Mint struck coins for other countries. Some 1946 cents were accidentally struck on foreign planchets, like silver coins or bronze foreign blanks. White heavy checkmark 1946 penny struck on a silver planchet sold for over $100,000 at auction. Money bag. These off-metal coins are extremely rare, and insanely valuable. Fire 2. 1946 double die obverse, DDO. Look closely at the date, Liberty, and in God we trust. If any of the letters or numbers appear doubled, you may have a double die error. White heavy checkmark values, $500 to $5,000 plus in mint state. White heavy checkmark in AU grades, these can still sell for thousands. Fire 3. Repunched mint marks, RPM. Look for multiple impressions of the D or S mint marks, especially slightly shifted ones. These RPM varieties are highly collectible. White heavy checkmark in 1946, D RPM FS 501 in MS65 RD sold for over $1,000. Fire 4. Struck through errors. These happen when a piece of debris or cloth interferes with the strike, leaving a visible deformity or void. White heavy checkmark. Depending on size and appearance, these can fetch $100 to $2,000. Fire 5. Off-center strikes. If the design is off-center, especially if the date is still visible, this becomes a collector's dream. White heavy checkmark off-center 1946 cents can go for $250 to $3,000. Fire 6. Clipped planchets. These coins appear as if a portion has been cut off due to a misfeed in the press. White heavy checkmark values range from $100 to $1,500. Part 4, Real auction records that prove the value. Let's look at some real sales to show how serious collectors are about rare 1946 pennies. Coin grade auction price 1946 off metal, silver planchet, 58 Australian dollars $102,000 1946 double die obverse MS63 RD $5,500 1946, DRPM FS 501 MS66 RD $1,025 1946 off-center strike MS64 $2,000 1946 S high grade, MS67 RD, PCGS $1,200. These numbers are not estimates, these are real, confirmed auction results. Coins certified by PCGS or NGC with these rare attributes consistently bring in huge returns. Magnifying glass tilted left Part 5, How to spot a valuable 1946 wheat penny. Here's a checklist to help you identify if your 1946 penny is a hidden gold mine. White heavy checkmark Step 1, Weigh the coin. Standard weight, 3.11 grams. Lighter or heavier equals possible off-metal error. White heavy checkmark Step 2, Examine with a loupe or microscope. Look for doubling in the date or lettering. Check for repunched mint marks. White heavy checkmark Step 3, Check the rim and design. If design is off-center or missing parts, it could be a valuable strike error. White heavy checkmark Step 4, Grade it. Uncirculated coins with full red luster, MS65 or higher, are worth much more. White heavy checkmark Step 5, Get it certified. Send to PCGS or NGC for authentication. Certified coins bring higher prices in auctions. Slabbed coins command much higher prices.